There's a lot of issues out there in the great lefty street fair, right? It doesn't matter what your issue is. In fact, it doesn't matter if you're a progressive or not. If you can't vote your chosen representatives into and crucially out of office, you can make progress on no other front. You can protest all you want. You can plan to hit the streets, which is going to be increasingly dangerous. You can wear the hippest T-shirts with Che Guevara's face on them, all kinds of buttons. You can read Naomi Klein's books. You can download really hip CDs. You can do all that. You can engage in cultural radicalism to your heart's content. But if the government can act with impunity, if they don't care what you think or how you vote, which is what we have now, see, it makes no difference. They will do whatever they want, regardless of your views or preferences. Have you ever seen an administration, like this is sort of directed to my cohort now, because you younger people haven't seen that many administrations, okay? Have you ever seen an administration so overtly and brazenly contemptuous of public opinion? Ever seen a president and vice president take this position? Right? Do you remember when Martha Raddatz asked Dick Cheney, well, what if the American people don't like the war policies that you're pursuing? Remember what he said? So? He said, so? It's impossible to imagine a Reagan or a Nixon or their vice presidents saying something like that. See? But the contempt for public opinion is a sort of indication that they feel they have the election thing gamed. It doesn't really matter. The McCain campaign tells the press, well, you know, maybe we'll have Sarah Palin give you interviews and maybe we won't. Right? Okay? What are you going to do about it? That's unprecedented. Kids, okay? Take it for, never seen this before. Never seen a campaign act that way. See? And indeed, the choice of Sarah Palin was not a choice dictated by a desire to reach independent and undecided voters. It wasn't. Neither was the Republican Party platform, which was extremely radical, you know, which actually has a plank which calls for a ban on privately funded stem cell research. I mean, it's very, very radical. That whole spectacle was calculated only to appeal to the Christian right. And this is an indication of their indifference to the broad range of voters, okay? Now, the question that people always ask is, what can we do? It's a perfectly rational question. It's a crucial question. What we have to do, first of all, okay, in this short term is see to it that there's as large a turnout as possible. The turnout has to be unprecedented. Because the larger the turnout, the more difficult the theft. That's a fact. You know, you can't just steal any number of votes. You have to stay within a margin of error. So if Obama's ahead by 12 points and then McCain wins by 20, that's not going to work. That's just going to raise too many eyebrows too high. The eyebrows are going to leave the head, you know. And even our media will say, hey, wait a second now, right? Even they will wonder, seems funny. So I just lost the thread. What was I saying? What can we do, Mark? Yeah, what can we do? Thank you. I've been talking for 4 months straight. I don't even sleep. I just talk, you know. Do you think it's rough on you? You talk to my wife, okay? Boy, is she bored. Okay, yeah, huge turnout, which means that those people who have voted early, all right, if you have friends who did early voting or doing early voting, I'm actually against early voting because it dilutes the number that turns out on election day. But it's too late. The Obama campaign said, everybody vote early. And a lot of people think that by voting early, your vote is safe. And that's not true, okay? I don't mean to depress anybody, but let's be adults and face the truth. The people voting early are voting on the same machines they're going to be voting on election day. And there's no particular style of voting that's going to allow you to skate by the fraud, you know? It's not going to work. It doesn't work that way. But if people have voted early, okay, that's fine, they voted early, but I urge them, turn out on election day anyway. I mean, obviously not to vote, because I don't believe in voting more than once, even though I'm from Chicago. But just be part of that national mass. Be present and regard voting on Election Day not just as the thing you have to do to make your choice between the parties. Regard turning out on Election Day as an assertion of your fundamental right to vote, your fundamental right to participate in self-government. That's why you should turn out. There are 2.75 million Americans, roughly, who don't vote on purpose as a protest against the political system. I respect that argument. I don't agree with it. I mean, I don't think it's going to bother Karl Rove that people aren't voting. Nevertheless, those 2.75 million who refuse to vote as a form of protest should turn out on Election Day and make the protest manifest. Be outside, be there, be in the lines, okay? And this must be the most vigilantly and thoroughly monitored election in our history. Watch what's going on, okay? There's something called Video the Vote, videothevote.org, which will provide you with a free camera and give you minimal training in how to interview voters coming out of the polls, because we need to collect the evidence of all the people who come out and say, hey, I voted for 30 years, I was registered last I looked, they tell me I'm not registered. It's going to happen a lot. We need that on video, and they're going to put the videos on YouTube. There are going to be people coming out and saying, you know, I tried to vote for Obama and the machine kept flipping it to McCain or to Cynthia McKinney. This has already been happening in West Virginia and Tennessee. I don't know if you know it. Been reported in local media, but this has been going on. CNN did stuff on it too. And they had a guy explain, no, the machines just aren't calibrated right. And they put their fat fingers on the wrong place. It's always the voter's fault. If it's that big, stupid, fat fingers on that line, dumb, fat fools, it's their fault, which to me is an absolutely unspeakable argument. Okay? So voting means that we have to honor the machine. We got to follow the machine protocols. Is that what it means to be part of we the people? I'm serious. Does we the people mean we who have photo IDs from the state? Is that what we the people means? Does we the people mean we the people who filled out the forms that came in the junk mail to our houses and mailed them in? Is that what we the people means? I don't think it does. I take a radical view of this. It seems to me that if the intent of the voter is obvious, that vote should be accepted. I don't care if they wrote in the wrong box, you know, if they wrote the name in the wrong place. All this stuff is used to disenfranchise voters, and it is not acceptable. It is not acceptable, okay? So we need, first of all, to turn out and get the turnout high. We need, second of all, to monitor the election as thoroughly as possible. There's also specific little things you should tell your friends, depending on where and how they vote. Don't go to the polls with buttons and T-shirts on that have your candidate's name and face on them. In some places it's legal, in some places it's illegal. But in places where it's legal, a partisan poll worker can say to you, you can't vote. What, are you going to fight with them? Have to call the hotline? Just don't do it. Don't wear them. And those of you who know people who vote on electronic voting machines, which I don't think you have in Vermont, don't vote the straight party option. Okay, if your friends want to vote all Democrats, they should vote each one at a time. If you pick the straight party option, just the one button that says straight party option, Democratic, the machines will often treat that as an undervote, which means you didn't cast a vote for anybody. So the machines are doing, okay? This is unacceptable, right? It's not to be borne. See, so in the short term, we need a high turnout, we need vigilant monitoring, but what this also means is we need to take a certain psychological step, which is to say, we're not going to take this anymore, okay? We're not going to take any more stolen elections, and we're not going to take the press pretending, or the Democrats, pretending this isn't a problem, okay? Because this is about our own rights, our freedoms, and our welfare, our survival. That's what this is about, okay? That's what this is finally about. So it's really up to you to do something a little bit more ambitious than simply to see to it that the Democrats and Barack Obama win next week. That's not what this is really about at all.